I'm Allison Weiss, and welcome to the very first episode of The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast. Although our podcast will typically feature women from commercial real estate, today we hand the mic to our special guest, Tiffany Eagles. Tiffany is a lead consultant with Secure Environment Consultants, and she is joining us for this very special episode called Secure and Confident Women's Safety in CRE. Before joining the SEC team, Tiffany Eagles spent 20 years as a special agent with the FBI. In addition to investigating a variety of federal offenses, she was an instructor in the Behavioral Science Unit, where she developed and delivered a course for the FBI's National Academy designed to provide ranking law enforcement officials with a new perspective between violence and behavior. She became a certified profiler in the Behavioral Analysis Unit, where she assisted law enforcement agencies with aberrant and complex crimes against adults. She finished her career in the Detroit division and was the Behavioral Analysis Coordinator, where she assessed state and local offenses for further FBI assistance. Before joining the FBI, Tiffany was a correctional officer responsible for providing security and care to incarcerated adults, which included supervising inmate activities, preventing and controlling volatile situations, and conducting contraband searches. In today's episode with Tiffany, we will cover a wide range of questions, including how to navigate the mix of workplace safety concerns unique to us women in commercial real estate, navigating conferences safely, how to safely exit uncomfortable situations, the role conference and event organizers can play in creating safer environments for women, how to be alert for warning signs, operate in male-dominated spaces, and balance personal safety and awareness, all without living in fear. A big thanks to today's episode sponsor, Secure Environment Consultants, for generously sharing Tiffany's time with us. Let's listen in. Welcome, Tiffany Eagles, to The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast. We are so happy to have you as our guest today, so thank you for joining us.
Yes, no, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. The listeners have already heard about your incredible background, which includes 20 years in the FBI and now working for Secure Environment Consultants. So we have a whole host of questions for you related more so to behavior and awareness and also your own personal experience in the FBI. So if you're okay with it, let's dive right in.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. So when women are out and about in the world, what, if any, behavioral warning signs should we be alert for from colleagues or from clients?
With SEC, we've done a really amazing job looking at workplace violence prevention plans. We discuss that. One of the things that I stress to our clients, both men and women, honestly, is to be aware of changes in people's personalities or the way they hold themselves or their demeanor, because those small changes could indicate a change. It doesn't have to be necessarily a change towards violence. Struggling with a setback at home or something that you'd be aware of, and just being aware of those around you and small changes in their demeanor could indicate, one, that they need some guidance and maybe they need some help working through a personal crisis, or maybe working on the pathway towards violence, and we may need to intervene as a society to try to get them assistance before something bad does happen.
Perfect. And what could be an example of a really small change when you're looking at somebody and having a conversation?
That's a great question. So I can use myself as an example. I'm usually very engaging. There was a time where I was introspective. I was struggling with a death in the family, but I wasn't in the workplace at that time. Had my been around, they may have noticed, wow, Tiffany is not herself. She's not participating in any of these other activities that we generally do. Then may have come and said, Tiffany, are you okay? And that would have opened up that opportunity for me to express my struggles. But oftentimes people don't want to talk about it, or they may feel uncomfortable or embarrassed. You may notice a change and engage someone, and they may not want to speak to you about it. However, the fact that you're noticing and you're taking the time shows concern, and it's up to that other party whether or not they want to express their struggles with you, or maybe they're just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. That happens to all of us, but it's just a small change in someone's demeanor, their attire, maybe the way they're spending money, their vernacular, things that they're using, like speech-wise or social media usage. There's a lot of subtle changes, but you have to know people to notice this. That's the one hitch. So it would be someone that you would have to work with quite often. But there's also the chance where you may be in public, maybe shopping, and there's something that happens where you're uncomfortable with the way someone is behaving, or you just that we get a sense oftentimes that something isn't right here. And those two are indicators. And that's where we should listen to our bodies and from those situations.
Awesome. So when we sense that something is uncomfortable, I know as women, sometimes we might hesitate because we don't want to escalate, right? We don't want the situation to boil over. So how can we address these types of warning signs or uncomfortable situations without escalating the situation?
That's a good question. So I think oftentimes I've noticed that we as women, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, or we don't want to embarrass ourselves or someone else. My suggestion is, if you are in a social setting at work, or if you are in a smaller setting in the break room or the parking, and you're uncomfortable with what's happening, then you have to listen to yourself and you have to leave. Whether you say, I don't really feel comfortable, I'm going to go ahead and go. Or you can also just make something up. No one knows it's not the truth except for you, right? You don't want to lie, but I need to go make a call. Or I'm going to go and check my inbox one more time before I leave. Or I'm going to step out and call home to make sure everything's okay. You can use reasons to remove yourself from that situation, but it's important that we listen to ourselves. When I talk to people about dangerous situations, and sometimes they say, Tiffany, I stayed there because I didn't want to be disruptive. I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. Maybe there's a speaker presenting to offend them. But we have to listen to ourselves, because those indicators are important, because that's your body's reaction to get out. But I feel like if we express ourselves in a genuine way, how that can escalate. But if it's a situation where voices are being raised, it's fair to say, I'm uncomfortable with this. I'm going to go ahead and step back, and I'll check in with you tomorrow, or however the situation unfolds. If it's someone you're going to see again, just have a good evening and then just remove yourself. But there's no good can come from continuing that conversation if you're uncomfortable.
I love that answer. And I love the idea of having some prepared phrases ready to go for the moment that you are in that situation, because I know for myself, sometimes you just freeze, or you hit that fight or flight or freeze or fawn sort of response, and you don't know what to say. So practicing ahead of time, I think, is maybe a good idea. And also just simply saying, I'm not really comfortable with what's happening. I'm gonna go, I think, is a powerful thing to do and say. And to your point, we just need to take care of ourselves.
We do. And if you say you're making me uncomfortable, it just made you prickly. It's not about you. It's about how the situation that has been created. So sometimes it's best to express how you're feeling about the situation instead of focusing on how someone else is making you feel. Take ownership. Yeah, I just don't feel like doing this right now. I'm gonna turn in early, or whatever it is, work to deflect any kind of irritation or hard feelings.
I like that. And I think as women, one of the things that we're concerned about oftentimes is if we speak out, or if we have these concerns about our safety, that might limit our ability to advance, especially if we're in a male dominated field like commercial real estate is. What would you say to that?
I think there's something about taking control without being domineering. So in some male dominated situations, there's a balance between coming on too strong and coming at the situation as you would expect a man to. We're different. It's just the way. But I have been able to take those differences and springboard off of them. Yes, I may be concerned about my safety, but that's going to make me more aware, me more cognizant of what's going on around me. That's going to make me listen to people's conversations and then have the ability to add those pieces in. So if I'm competing for a contract, I may be someone talking about something, I'm going to take pieces of those conversations and use them when I have a chance to meet with that client. So you can use it as a strength to listen. You can address the situation with confidence and still be feminine, right? Still be professional about the situation. But I have found that a lot of people, I did well because people want to listen. People wanted someone to be patient. People wanted someone just to, I don't know. I just think it was the matter of, I guess it was the mom in me to sit down, pay attention, look at the details. And maybe it took longer to go through the color schemes or deciding where we're going to put the entrances or looking at the safety and security of this. I've found that it benefited me because people wanted me on their interview teams. Not that I'm better, but it was just the being patient and listening and giving people time. So I think there's a level of confidence that comes with your surroundings and increased footprint. And I think that's attractive in the workforce. It's a competitive feature.
Awesome. I agree. I think our skills in listening and also applying that knowledge are definitely a differentiator. And I do think being a woman can be a competitive advantage. And so I'm glad that you feel similarly. When we're thinking about the companies that we're in and maybe the organizations that we're a part of within commercial real estate, how do you feel like those groups can better incorporate safety training that's specific to our needs as women?
Good question. I think that part of the training, in my opinion, is going to be making everybody aware of the behavior, because behavior can be an indicator of violence, right? I'm not saying that if there's a change in behavior that you're going to be a violent person. However, changes behavior. And I think if organizations as a whole made this better known, had these conversations, and gave people the confidence to come forward, whether it's an issue, whether it's a struggle, whether it's whatever the concern, if it's a gambling problem, whatever it is, there was some groundwork laid to make people comfortable coming forward. I think that would empower both men and women in the workplace, because it's going to make us both more aware of the life struggles that we bring to the office.
Yeah.
We can't just turn these things off when we get there. And I make us both more appreciative and downs that we go through in life, would make us more compassionate to the people that we're working with. And I think that in itself would make women more comfortable in the workplace, because it's not an issue because Tiffany's going through a crisis or she's too emotional. No, this is everybody. This is something we're all dealing with. And it just manifests itself in different ways depending on your gender, your circumstances, or your all still things that happen. I think it normalizes it, and then it empowers people.
In the fast-paced world of commercial real estate, safety and security are key to protecting your investment, assets, and people. With Secure Environment Consultants, your property remains protected 24/7, whether it's safeguarding buildings, controlling access, or responding to emergencies. Our team can help you minimize risk, increase tenant confidence, and create a safe, welcoming environment for both tenants and clients. We help you prepare for the unexpected with on-site assessments, emergency preparedness trainings, and safety security consulting, while also offering highly trained on-site security. Let FEC help protect your assets, enhance your reputation, and provide peace of mind. Visit fecprotects.com for more information.
I think too, back to everything that you're saying right now is reminding me of the See Something, Say Something campaign that happened around September 11th, and how if there is something that we notice is changing or is different, that we can have conversations, we can try to address it, try to bring it up. How do you feel like that might be different? Maybe I'm getting it wrong, and See Something, Say Something isn't always the right thing to do.
I think it is, but I wonder if that's something a little bit more. Maybe they're talking about something that is more obvious, telling. I'm coming at, or the minor, the subtle changes in, and if someone could address me during my mourning process or a loss in the family, it could make a difference in feeling cared for, listened, heard. If someone could just point me to a grief counselor and then prevent me from going down a path of an addiction or gambling or just harming myself. So like the see something, say something is more about there's a backpack in the hallway or there's a vehicle on the street that I'm not aware of or I don't recognize. But I feel like what I'm trying to talk about are just the small changes. But
micro things.
yeah. But then people say, Tiffany, I don't need a best friend at work. I have my own circles, and that's fine. I'm not asking people to get super involved in everyone else's business, but I know we've all seen things like, wow, that person isn't themselves today, or hey, this person never used to show up late, or why is this person taking a 2-hour lunch? This is unusual, or how come they leave the office to make phone calls now? Could be changes, but I think that's the difference between the say something, see something, say something. It's just noticing the small changes, but it's hard. And we are so overburdened. We are asked to do more with less. And it's hard to ask people to spend time and energy on other people when sometimes we have for ourselves.
Sure. That makes sense. I think it's an important point that you make in differentiating the two, that see something, say something is usually strangers, right? It's usually the general public, and you're noticing or you're looking for big things, not these micro moments happening day after day. But I think as you're saying this, I can think of certain situations. I have a colleague who I know is going through a divorce. And so the stuff that he posts on social media is changing. And it's one of those things that I have noticed, but it might be worth me just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. If you ever want to grab a cup of coffee or go take a walk, I'm here. And that could alleviate some of the pressure and frustration that he's feeling that he might be bringing into work or these other parts of his life.
That's right. And then he doesn't feel like he's alone. And that's very powerful.
Yeah, I love that. We are an industry that's full of different environments and different, I guess, experiences. You could be at a conference, or you could be on a job site, or taking someone on a tour of an office or an industrial park. How would you change up those safety protocols that you're thinking about to match the different environments that we're going to experience in commercial real estate?
I think it would be very helpful, like I mentioned, to have the organization address that workplace violence prevention plan, because each one of these scenarios you described would have a different tactic. But I feel like primarily the females in this arena would think about their personal safety. Let where you're going. Make sure you're aware of your surroundings. Don't do this at dusk. But those seem like common sense things. But if you're dealing with a contractor, you're dealing with the deadline, or you're dealing with a aggressive, not in a bad way, but someone who wants to get this done, have this tight timeline, you may not have that luxury. But I think a lot of it is being present and being aware. Sometimes we're very distracted, and me being very guilty of this. And oftentimes I'm not paying attention. I have all these things going on in my brain, my phone's ringing. To be present, we need to be aware. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what? I want to bring someone with me. I want to meet me at this site, and having a second person. In the FBI, we generally did interviews in pairs because it's not common to show up at someone's house by yourself, right? So nothing wrong with going with someone, but I understand that puts a strain on finances, right? No one has payroll for everyone to do double jobs. But there may be certain circumstances where you would like that, and that's let that be known. Conferences, I do have some suggestions on changes for the conference in general, but I think one of these situations would take a little bit to see what kind of tweaks could be made to make sure that everyone's comfortable and that it's successful. And then also more expeditious to make sure, are we doing this the right way? Are we being effective with our time? There's things that could potentially be improved.
Yeah. I like the example of two people on a site visit, because it is good just to have that extra set of eyes, because I'm going to pick up on different things than the other person might pick up on based on the lens that I see the world with. I do think one of the things that I see residential real estate do that's interesting that I think commercial real estate does a little bit is this idea of an open house where you might have a certain time period where you're on site. And then it might be easier to say, okay, we're going to allocate 2 people or 3 people to an open house or a broker tour event or what have you. So you don't have to continuously be returning to the site alone. You've got more resources for a shorter period of time, if that makes sense.
That's fantastic, because then you are using that's the best time of the best use of your time. No matter who comes in, you have more than one person to take care of the whole situation. You're showing this, you're at the door, someone else is making sure that the papers are out there. That's very efficient.
Yeah. So thinking about your own experience, 20 years with the FBI is quite a career. How has it changed the way that you navigate the world as a woman yourself?
It's been a blessing, and it's also been a curse. I feel sorry for my daughter. She's 10. I feel like it's been good because I've been aware of my surroundings. I'm confident. I was very confident in my physical fitness. I still could probably hold my own. However, but I also feel like because of what I saw being in the behavioral analysis unit and looking at these violent, aberrant crimes, it made me apprehensive. It made me more concerned about certain situations. And my mother would tease me, Tiffany, you're just too jaded or too worried about things. But it's when the propensity and people's ability to commit heinous crimes. But I can't go through life worried about that. I have been able to bring with me a heightened level of awareness. And my kids scold me for talking to people when we're on a hiking trail or engaging people, but we'll always make eye contact because I want them to know I see you. I know what you're wearing and I have made contact with you, and I don't want to be perceived as an easy target. I will. Whether or not I feel confident or not, no one's going to know. I'm going to fake it. I get out of a situation where I may be uncomfortable, but it has helped me, but it's made me a little bit more tactically minded in situations where I didn't necessarily need to be. However, I have not been injured, thank the Lord.
So I think the proof is in the pudding there. Has it changed at all over time from the early part of your career to now? Any major changes that you noticed?
It was interesting thinking on this. So when I first got started, the focus on my training was more firearms, physical fitness, tactics, but it was more about protecting myself. If I was in a dangerous situation, engaging someone so that I came home, because they always our first duty is to care for the public, but you have to be proficient with your firearm, because if it's just the two of you, we're trained to take care of ourselves. However, it morphs from taking care of yourself to then taking care of others, because now we're training about active shooter situations. How do you have others in a building so that you can neutralize a threat and then still protect the people that are in the building? It also morphed from that to doing the behavioral analysis work when I'm trying to protect additional victims, right? I find out who's perpetrating this crime, why are this, how are they doing this? So I did morph through my career, and I was looking at the personal safety and how it changed. And it did take a protracted track, but it was very fulfilling.
Good. And what motivated you deciding to make that move? Having a 20-year track record and career anywhere, it's hard to make a big change like you made. What was behind that desire to move more onto the behavioral training side of things?
So I felt like there was a lapse in the public's awareness on the behavior changes. And like I mentioned, the pathway to violence and how behavior can indicate a propensity. And please don't mistake, I'm not saying that if people do things, that means they're violent, because we can't predict behavior. But when I was talking to educators about how can we talk to kids and identify when they need help, not to put them on a path of incarceration, but to pull them off and to nurture them and to the assistance that they need so we can get them on a clear path for success.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it's just teaching people to identify these slight changes. These educators or public service representatives, police officers, people in churches, people in gyms, any place, anywhere, daycares, if we can get them to look for vulnerable kids and identify a situation that may need some assistance, what a difference we could make, right? So I felt like
Yeah.
that law enforcement, the FBI had that down pat. They knew how to move those balls forward, but I just felt called or compelled to bring this message back and get it to educators and people in the private sector. Who knows? Maybe we could prevent a lot of workplace violence, right? So things that can be learned. It's just a matter of getting out in front of people and having the time to express these ideas and then making sure that people have the time what I'm suggesting. Minor
Yeah.
change.
I love that it's more about prevention than intervention after the fact. It's much more proactive. And I think a lot of the women listening to this podcast are mothers and aunties and all of that. So I think that will definitely resonate with people that we're looking for those red flags before anything happens so we can intervene, so we can help and connect people with resources to their individual situations.
That's right. I was very surprised. Behavioral threat assessments are amazing. They've done a fantastic job. But when we talk about a behavior threat assessment, what kind of behaviors are you looking for? We don't know. Well, that's like telling people to drive a car, but they don't know how to put it in park or you know what. So we have to give them the tools and identify these indicators before they turn into something terrible. And plus, it's easier to mitigate. We don't want to put people in the system because nothing good can
Yep.
come from that. So yes, it is about awareness and mitigation.
Awesome. I know you've mentioned this when you were talking about how your own personal safety journey has gone from the FBI to today. I find it hard myself to balance this level of awareness that I have with not living in fear of what might happen and doing the what if dance with myself if I'm in a situation that might be a little bit scary. How do you manage that awareness versus constant state of fear or hypervigilance?
It's tough. So what I try to express to people is to come with confidence. When we were profiling cases where there were victims and we didn't know who had perpetrated this offense, we look at the victim. Why was this victim chosen? And I haven't forgotten this. So I think about how people choose victims. They choose them because they're available. So they're in the area, they're easy to access, they have a first floor apartment, but they leave their window open. They are vulnerable. So this is the person that isn't paying attention, or there's something that makes them susceptible, or they're desirable. I can't fix desirable. I don't know what makes a target desirable to a specific offender, but I can modify or mitigate the availability and the vulnerability. So that's what I try to keep in my mind. Walk with confidence. And I fake it till you make it is what I say. No one has to know that on the inside, I'm scared to death. If they were to approach me, if this person were to come forward, I wouldn't be able to hold a candle to them. But they don't have to know that. I can pretend and be more confident. And if I can make myself less available, I walk out with a girlfriend. You want to be on your phone. Have your keys available. When you get in your car, you want to lock your doors. Don't fiddle looking for something. You lock the doors and get out. Park by a light. There's a lot of silly things that we've probably heard our parents tell us over and over, but it's the same concept. And when I'm on a bike trail, I'm nervous about wearing earphones. I can't run that long because my brain defeats me. But I look behind me, and that's silly. Then I end up tripping because I'm not. But I do try to be aware of my surroundings, and it's just doing the best that I can to be vigilant.
I like that. The availability and the vulnerability, those are the controllable things that we can work on, and great tips there. I think the AirPods thing is one that I see all the time. People walking with or noise canceling headphones. And I just think about all of the potential there is for people to come up behind you without you knowing and all of that. So very good points.
Right.
Last big question. what practical safety tools or technology can we as women incorporate into our daily routines?
So again, I would go back to what I just indicated. Be aware. Keep your eyes up. If you're
Mhm.
on your phone, you are extremely vulnerable. You're watching what's going on. Not to mention, you may walk out into traffic, right? I think if you use mace, but you have to know how to use it. How do I unlock this? How do I spray it? You don't want to spray it downwind because then it's going to get in your face. And now you just made yourself a fantastic target, right? Well, I think that personal security measures are good, but you have to know how to use them. I think, again, I've noticed a lot of people, they're just not paying attention. And I don't know if it's because they're on the phone, if they're just distracted, but they are in their zone. And I'm guilty of this myself.
Yeah.
You're doing your thing. I have 15 minutes to get something done. I need to get in and out and do my business. Sometimes that works against us because we're not watching who's coming in. So I think being present, being aware, and first, I'm just focusing on the vehicles because I have so many women getting in their cars, and men too. This can happen to men. It's not just women, right? Getting in your cars and then you sit. What are you waiting for? There's no one else in there with you. Lock your doors. Get out of that environment. There's no reason to hang out in that parking lot. Get on your way. You need to do something, go to a gas station, go to a fire station, go someplace. If you feel like you're being followed, there are places you can go. Don't go home. You're uncomfortable. Don't go to your house. Go someplace else where there's lots of people. But I think locking your doors at the house, right? You may be vigilant, but times are changing. This isn't our grandparents' environment anymore, right?
Yeah.
So we have to keep up with that and get to know your neighbors. Have a second set of eyes when you're going out of town or when someone's outside that shouldn't be outside. It's nice to have people around you that are aware of your comings and goings and could say, hey, Tiffany, there was someone in your backyard that was unusual. That shouldn't be happening. Thanks for letting me know. I think that, again, that goes to networking and being more aware of people and engaging others to come into your little nest area.
I love that. Any last parting thoughts that you might have for our listeners on the things that we discussed today or anything else in general?
So I would just ask that we, as a whole, as women in general, that we work on just being aware, building each other up, and encouraging, because it runs tough. It's hard. We have a lot of things working against us, and it's helpful when you have women coming alongside you.
Absolutely. And I know that every woman listening to this podcast right now can reflect back on a time where they have seen something like that and either got involved or didn't get involved. So I think it's a great call to action for us to support each other, to keep an eye on each other, to lift each other up, and to equip each other with this great information. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast with our very special guest, former FBI Special Agent, Tiffany Eagles. I know from my conversations with women throughout my career in commercial real estate that there's a good chance that a high percentage of you listening have experienced uncomfortable and even inappropriate situations at work and at conferences. As return to office is in full effect, and with conference season ramping up into high gear, we felt this was an incredibly important and timely conversation to have. If you have any feedback on today's episode, or would like to submit a question or topic for an upcoming episode, or are interested in partnership opportunities with Women Speak CRE, please reach out to spotlight@womenspeakcre.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share The Spotlight wherever you listen to podcasts. Your actions can help us grow. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you soon in The Spotlight.